So components are a separate module. So for each of your tenants, once you've got it installed, you need to make sure that custom components are enabled. So you can just switch that on. What that will do is that will, in your content area, that will put in a new menu item for components. And also you will have components in the main platform level content management. So you can switch components on there as well. So it's the usual My WorkPal principle that you have components or you have items, resources, that sort of thing at platform level and at tenant level. So you can have a standard platform level version that is available to all tenants, and then you can override it at tenant level or just have very specific ones at tenant level. I think what we'll do first is if we just build one at the tenant level, so we'll go into the components area here first. So at the moment I don't have any components, so let's create a new one. So first you need to give it a name. We'll just call this test and test. So that's very simple. It doesn't need a description at this stage. Now, components are made up of a number of things. First off, in this tab, we've got layouts. We'll come back to this later, or I would suggest it might be best if you have a look in the knowledge base. We'll go into a bit more detail about what the various bits and pieces do. But the important bit here is the content. So what is a component? A component is an encapsulated block of complex code that might be made up of JavaScript and CSS and HTML. Typically how we do this at the moment is with snippets, expressions and snippets, but quite often you need to sort of create snippets that work as functions or that refer to each other. Or we have this this method called getSnippet, where you can almost create your own sort of mini functions to repeat bits of HTML. So often we need to do sort of quite complex things, and it might need to refer to lots of different areas to get all the information together, and then you've got to drop that into each individual page or wherever you want that component or what you want that piece of HTML to show. So components encapsulates a lot of that in one area. So we've got at the end of the day, it just needs to show something on the screen. So we've got the template expression, which really shows the piece of information on the screen. But then you can refer to variables and functions and start to build up some sort of complex stuff. So we just keep this really simple at this stage. We say, just say hello world. So it's not a remarkably complex component, but all this is going to do is it's just going to write out the word hello world. Where's that going to do that? So we can drop components into page templates. So if we go to page templates, we'll create a new page template called test. And in here we use the syntax, curly braces as always, hash component, spelling it right would help, and then the component name, which in this case was just test. So that just refers to the name of the components. So we'll save and publish that page, and then when we go to it, it writes out the page, and then this bit here is the results of that component. So if we go back to our component now, let's extend this and make it a bit more worthwhile. So all it does is say hello world. We could now that is fairly raw HTML, so we might want to say put it in a p tag. And up in CSS we can start to write some CSS around that as well if we wanted to. So we could say, right, we want the p tag to be color red. So that has now injected that color into that CSS. And of course we can do things with JavaScript. We can extend that further. Obviously you need to write sort of viable script that that doesn't sort of blow up the whole page. So just sort of urge a bit of caution on that. So next we can start to look at variables. You can create variables much like you would in Benefit Builder. So you can build up a list of variables, and those variables can reference each other and they can get complexities into them. If we just start out with a very simple one of my name, and in there we would want to say display name. I think at this stage you need to be aware that if you use a parameter that exists in the system, an underlying parameter such as display name, which is you can just put onto the screen anywhere. So I can take this word and I can, in my expression tester, I can run display name and that will show my name. It's best not to use that as the actual variable name. Use your own term. So we'll call it my name. So then in here we can say your name is, and then we can reference that variable again, similar to benefits, but it calls it component name my name. So if we save that pulls in the actual sort of variable. So you can start to build up that kind of functionality there. And the last bit here is we have functions. So functions you can start to get more complex around it. So functions don't require the curly braces, but you can say something like addition, call it addition, and then here you can create as many arguments as you want. So this is like creating arguments with functions, etc. So if we say, and you need to name the arguments with arg1 up to arg whatever. So you just have a count of arguments. So if I just start typing something, arg1 plus arg2, so it'll add one number to another. And then in here we can say we'll put a br tag in there so that we've got a new line. Add 1 plus 1 equals, and then here we would use our function. So we say, okay, the function is called addition. So component function called addition. Then here it just leaves it at args. It doesn't know how many arguments there are going to be in here, but I know there are 2 arguments. So first argument is 1 and the second argument is 1, so 1 plus 1. And the following wind, that will say 1 plus 1 equals 2. So of course you can really go to town on how complex you want this to be. So 1 first argument times second argument plus second argument times third argument. So 1 plus 2 times 3. Let's see what that looks like. So that starts to sort of build up that kind of functionality. So not a brilliant example, but that shows you how you can start to use the functionality within this. So now this is a component. We've just dropped it into this page. Here we could drop it into the benefits page, for example. So if we go to my benefits page on here, what have we got on there? So if I go to configuration, and save this. This was a component that I was playing with earlier, and I'll show you how to use that in a second. So here it's the same component, it's just pulling it into the different place. So you can put it in as many pages as you like, and of course you can put it into a page in the benefit itself. Now the other thing with components is that you can export and import components. Now we have, if I start from scratch, we have, if we go to help on this page, we've started to create a library of components, and at the bottom of this page we've got a little link that goes to the library, which has got a grand total of 1 component in it. And the idea here is that you might want to show a countdown timer, typically that how many days, hours and minutes until enrollment of your benefits end. So this page tells you how the component works, and importantly it gives you a couple of, in this case, a couple of example components, and these are XML files that you can download. Now if I go to here, if I import, and on my desktop I can now see countdown timer. If I open that one, and that will import this component. If I have a look at this, it's got the information, it's got the layouts, we've got a fair amount of complexity around CSS and template expression. So this is the actual code that's going to be in here. We've got lots of variables, lots of functions, and this page tells you how it works. Basically it looks at, it needs to look at, in this case, a close date. It needs to look at a scheme year close date. Now with my WorkPal we don't have scheme year definition, you have them on each of the individual benefits, so you would need to figure out what is the scheme year close date. So the simplest way really is to put some metadata on the company. So we've created a piece of metadata, benefits window close date. I've set it as the 4th of July in this case. So now I would want to put that countdown timer into this page here. So we'll call it countdown timer, which is just literally the name of that component. So now when I go to the screen and refresh it, so editing into that page, we need to figure out what that component is called. It's at the moment it's called countdown timer import, so let's just get rid of that. We'll call it countdown timer. So this name is how you need to identify it in the page that you want to drop it into. So we'll go into configuration, and we'll pop to know when we go onto the page. Click refresh. We should end up with a countdown timer. So this is based on enrollment ends on the 4th of July, which is based on what we've got up here, 4th of July. So whatever date we set it at, this date will figure out how many days, hours and minutes that we've got left until that point. So because that is a component, we can put it in this page, we could put it in, I think on this screen where benefits welcome, so if B, what's it called, pages, benefits welcome, there it is. So we could say, right, let's pop into the HTML editor so we make sure we know what we're doing. Component countdown timer. So now we've got a countdown timer in, so it's exactly the same piece of code. So this countdown timer I'd actually put into the tenant itself, but of course it could go into the platform level components area, so it can be used by multiple tenants. So have a go with that. Have a go with downloading the component, install it on your system, follow the instructions and see what it gives you, and let us know if you need any help.